Welcome friends. In our last few sessions, we were discussing about process choice. Now, conventionally we have discussed that process choice is based on two criteria. One is volume and the second is variety. And the very popular product process matrix is already discussed in our last session. But we also discussed that this product process matrix is not sufficient to take the complexities of current market, because the product process matrix or the way we are doing the process choice, these are mostly related to our internal capabilities. But when we are talking about manufacturing strategy and we are talking about market driven approach, in that we also need to consider the external environment, and therefore the conventional product process matrix is to be developed as a three-dimensional view, and we discussed about the development of that three-dimensional view in our last session. Now, that three-dimensional view of process choice was represented like this, that you have three dimensions and one dimension is product line complexity, that is one dimension. The second dimension is the process complexity and the third dimension is the organizational scope. So, now we are developing a three-dimensional framework, and on the basis of this three-dimensional framework we can have our generic manufacturing strategies. So, this particular session is going to help us in two ways. One, we will be elaborating in detail about this three-dimensional view of our process choices, and with the help of this three-dimensional view we will develop some more generic manufacturing strategies, because as we discussed in our previous session, each corner of this shape 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all these points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are going to help us in understanding different types of generic manufacturing strategies. Out of these, some may be useful, some may be very attractive and some may not be very attractive. So, let us see that what are those generic manufacturing strategies. Though we have already discussed in our previous session that what do we mean by product line complexity, what do we mean by process complexity, what do we mean by organizational scope, but because of the connectivity we will like to quickly discuss that what do we mean by these three different dimensions. Now, the first dimension as we discussed is the process structure complexity, and process structure complexity is about whether your process is mature or immature. So, if it is an immature process, then we say that process structure complexity is low, and when a mature process is there, that is a highly complex process structure, because now you have stabilized your process and therefore process is in the maturity stage, and now you cannot alter much with your process. That is the meaning of process structure complexity. When your process is not mature, when your process is in infancy stage, you can do lot of alterations with your process, and therefore that process is known as low process complexity processes. Then another characteristic of those immature processes are that these are exhibiting many discontinuities, and many discontinuities between the processing stages. The meaning is that you are, take an example, job shops. So, in job shops we have various discontinued processes. For first job you have a sequence of process A, then process B, then process C. This is the sequence for job A. For job B, it is quite possible that you have a sequence of process A and directly process C. For job C, you have a sequence of operations like you have B and then you have another process D. So, there is lot of discontinuities between processing stages, and therefore, these are characterized as low process structure complexity. On the other hand, in the case of high process structure complexity, we have a mature process, and the mature process is used for the production of commodities, and in that case you are making this process only for very limited kind of variety. You are continuously producing same type of product using this process. So, you have a lot of interconnectivity. So, now the difference is very much clear that when it is a low process structure complexity, you have immature process, and these processes are characterized by discontinuities. On the other hand, when you have high process structure complexity, you have a mature process and there is lot of interconnectivity. You have a continuity from stage 1 to stage C. So, for if I talk in the high process structure complexity cases, so for all the processes we are going to follow a very similar kind of processes A, B, C. So, whether it is job A or job B or job C, for all these three different types of jobs we have same processes A, B, C, etc. So, if that is the case, it is a high process structure complexity. The second dimension is related to product line complexity. So, we discussed that product line complexity is basically the representation of how many types of products, how many product lines are available in your organization, in your product mix. So, it is a measure of the type and variety of the product lines. So, just to give you the idea what do we mean by product lines. So, there is a concept in marketing which is known as product mix. So, we need to go to that concept of product mix to understand the meaning of product lines. Now, the product mix are those complete organization structure of various products offered by your organization. So, like your organization may offer 4 different types of products A, B, C, D. Now, it is quite possible that A, B, C, D are related to each other. Maybe A is shampoo, B is hair oil, C is bathing soap, and D is talcum powder. So, in that case all these A, B, C, D are related. But if A is shampoo, B is CDs, C is a software product, and D is let us say cold drink. So, if A, B, C, D are these types of product, you have various unrelated product lines in your product mix. So, there are whether you have consistency in your product mix or inconsistency in your product mix. So, if product lines are similar, maybe either end uses, maybe either because of their production system, maybe because of their distribution system, if some consistency is there, some similarity is there in various product lines, we say that our product mix is a consistent product mix. But if there are so much dissimilarities, if product line A deals with a different market, it requires a different type of production facilities, it requires a different type of distribution facilities, B requires a different type of setup, C require a different type of setup, D requires a different type of setup. So, when these different product lines are having their own peculiar requirements, this is known as inconsistent product mix. So, now the one idea of product line complexity is coming from the consistency and inconsistency. If you have a consistent product lines in your product mix, that is less product line complexity, and if you have inconsistent product lines in your product mix, that is high product line complexity. So, that is one way to understand the meaning of product line complexity, that what is high product line complexity and what is low product line complexity. Then depending upon complexity of end products, if the end products which you are making, you have some typical requirements. Maybe if you are making a product A which requires 3, 4 different types of variants A1, A2, A3, it means your complexity further increases. But if you are making a product where only one variant is good enough, B1, it means less complex product lines. So, whether your end products are complicated, complex, they require different types of variants. So, that is another measure of complexity of your product lines. Then another measure of complexity of product line is variety or number of end products produced. So, if you have more products in your product lines A, B, C, D, if you increase the width of your product line, like if I add E, if I add F, so if I add more number of products in my product line, if I have more product lines in my product mix, that means I have a complex product line. If I have less number of product lines in my product mix, that is relatively less complex product line. So, that is the second measure of my product line complexity. Then the third is individual product volumes. Now, in case of A1, A2, A3, B1, similarly you can have C1, C2, C3, etc. Now, in this particular case, if you have similar kind of volumes for all the products, that means you have a less complicated product line. But if you have different types of volume requirements for these different types of products, that is maybe it is quite possible that you have only 10 tons of requirement of A1, while you require A2 100 tons and A3 500 tons. Now, if this type of volume requirement is there, that is further going to increase the complexity of your product line. While in case of C1, C2, C3, if you require 100 ton of each, that means your product line is less complicated. So, on the basis of variety of volumes, that for each end product how much volume is required, that is also a measure of product line complexity. Then depending upon the stage in the life of a product, this is particularly related with the concept of product life cycle. So, if you see the concept of product life cycle, so it is quite possible that in a wider product mix, different products are at different stages in their lives. For an example, if I have a B1 product, so B1 product may be in the maturity stage and C3 product is in the growth stage and A1 product is in the introduction stage. Now, we have already discussed in our previous sessions that because of different stages at product life cycle, different products may require different type of order winners and qualifiers. So, since A1 is at the introduction stage, B1 is at the maturity stage, C3 is at the growth stage, so my complexity will further increase, because these different products, due to their different stages in their product life cycles, will be having different types of order winners and qualifiers. So, this going to add to my complexity further. So, that is another measure, that is another way to determine the complexity of my product line. So, that is about so nowadays the idea of this product line complexity is more market driven. Earlier this type of understanding was not there with respect to products. So, earlier the product means that you have either volume or variety. So, that was the only idea with respect to product, but now because of a more detailed understanding of product line, we are including various market oriented concept to understand the product line complexity phenomena. Then the third dimension of this 3-dimensional view is the organizational scope. Now, in the organizational scope, we consider two aspects. This is entirely a new dimension for our generic manufacturing strategic framework. Now, these are geographical scope and the level of vertical integration. So, geographical scope is related to the global market. So, how many markets are we covering? That is the aspect of geographical scope. And level of vertical integration means that in my supply chain, where are we and whether we are going for forward integration or backward integration. So, we want to go more into the distribution retail side of our business, or we want to start our development of spare parts, development of raw material, development of sub assemblies. So, either direction we can move, we can start forward integration, we can start backward integration. So, what is the level of vertical integration from my position? If I am at this position, I am original equipment manufacturer. So, I can go for distribution of my product, or I can also go for developing the facilities for making sub assemblies for my own product. So, I can become a supplier for my own organization, or I may become customer of my own organization. So, in whatever direction I move here, that is known as vertical integration. So, I may go for one stage of vertical integration, I may go for two stage of vertical integration, I may go one step forward, one step backward. So, there are variety of possibilities in which I can go for vertical integration. So, that is also one aspect of my generic manufacturing strategic framework. So, these are the three important dimensions we discussed, and on the basis of these three dimensions, you see product line complexity, process complexity and organizational scope, we are now going to discuss 8 possible generic manufacturing strategies. Now, let us see that what are these 8 generic manufacturing strategies. So, you please keep remembering that diagram, and now this is generic strategy GMS 1. This is our GMS 1. Now, what is this GMS 1? This says that you have low product line complexity, low process structure complexity and low organizational scope. So, everything is on the low side. You have low product line complexity, low process structure complexity and low organizational scope. So, if I take you to this diagram, in that we see that this is that position number 1, where you have low product line complexity, you have low process complexity and you have low organizational scope. This is that point number 1, and as we discussed that since our product line complexity is low, it means we are not offering many products. Our product are limited, we are into narrow zone of product offering, or the products which we are offering are more or less consistent with each other. Second is process complexity. So, the process complexity is also low. So, our process complexity is low, it means it is more or less immature kind of processes. So, when we have limited variety and our processes are also not very mature, and therefore, our organizational scope is also low, because limited number of process, limited number of products, and therefore, we are distributing our products in a limited market. We have a limited market, we are not present in various geographical locations, and at the same time, because of the small scope of my organization, I am not interested in much of vertical integration. So, therefore, this point 1 is suitable for those organizations which are particularly in this SME sector. This is suitable case for SME sector, where you have everything within a small organizational scope. You have limited number of products, and then depending upon the requirement of the market, which type of product is more useful at a particular time, you will like to make that type of product. So, it is reasonably attractive. As I mentioned that we will also discuss that which generic strategy is attractive and which is not attractive. So, this is reasonably attractive strategy for the small and medium enterprises. Now, coming to the second type of GMS is the high product line complexity. Now, this is just opposite to the first in one particular sense, that high product line complexity, but low process structure complexity and low organizational scope. The meaning is that when you have high product line complexity, it means you are offering wide variety. Here you are offering wide variety, and wide variety is only possible when you have discontinued processes. Like you take the example of our job shops. So, in our job shops we have already discussed that we have a large number of products coming in small volumes, and therefore, you have low process structure complexity here, because you have different types of discontinuities in your process structure, and these are not mature processes. And at the same time, you have low organizational scope. Because of a smaller volume of your products, you cannot reach to large market sizes. So, therefore, low organizational scope means you are present in a limited number of markets. So, this is a second type of generic manufacturing strategy, and as I say, this is an ideal kind of generic manufacturing strategy. So, you can say that if you are producing wide variety of products, you obviously will go for the job shops, and in that case you should not try for high organizational scope, or you should not try to reach to many markets, you should limit to only few markets. So, that is a very ideal case for your organization. You will be able to take lot of advantage with respect to that. Now, the third type of generic manufacturing strategy is point number 3. Now, point number 3 says that you have a low product line complexity, but now you have high process structure complexity. Now, when you have low product line complexity, it is possible when you have a narrow kind of product lines. You are producing some limited number of products, and these limited number of products are either in their maturity stage or on their volume is maybe high, but consistent volume is there. So, there is no fluctuation in the volume of the product. Therefore, you have low product line complexity, and high process structure complexity says that these production systems are mature. So, these production systems are mature, and when these production systems are mature, you can continuously produce same type of product in that organization. And here the low organizational scope means, the meaning of low organizational scope is that we do not want to go for much of vertical integration. We may go for more number of markets, because we are producing narrow products, limited amount of products, but the processes are matured, and therefore, we can produce those products in large volumes. So, we can go to different geographical markets. We can go from market A to market B, from India to many South Asian countries we can go to distribute those products, but we will not like to go for much of vertical integration. So, in this case the meaning of distribution is that you can have your distributors, but you yourself will not like to go into that kind of vertical integration activity. So, that is the meaning of low organizational scope here. This is also an ideal kind of generic manufacturing strategy. Then next is the fourth one is high product line complexity. So, you have a wide product mix and high process structure complexity. Now, high process structure complexity says that for each of these product line, each of these products in your product mix, you are going to achieve a mature product process. That is why we say that this is not economically feasible, that you are having large number of products in your product line, and for all those products you are having this high process structure complexity. So, that is economically not feasible. Because of developing the high process structure complexity, you need to do lot of investment, and that may be the subject matter of discussion in our next session, that how it is not economically feasible. Then another generic manufacturing strategy, the fifth one is low product line complexity, low process structure complexity and high organizational scope. Now, you have low product line complexity, it means you have only few products, narrow product lines, and your low process structure complexity, it means your processes are also not mature, you have a lot of discontinuities in your processes. But you want to have high organizational scope, you want to be in many markets, or you want to integrate your supplier or your customers, distributors on other side. So, this is not an ideal choice, it is not a good choice for your organization, because you will not be able to reap any benefit out of it. So, that is not to be discussed much because of non-idealness of this kind of generic manufacturing strategy. Then another generic manufacturing strategy, sixth, is you have a high product line complexity and low process structure complexity and high organizational scope. Now, what does it mean? Because it is an ideal kind of GMS. Now, what is the meaning of this type of GMS? That you have high product line complexity, it means you are offering a wide product mix, you have wide product lines, and then low process structure complexity, that is again you have immature processes, discontinued intermediate processes, that is the low process structure complexity. But you want to have high organizational scope. Now, when you are producing large amount of products, you are having large variety of products, you can either go for large number of markets, you should have more markets into your domain. Therefore, the purpose of high product line complexity is useful. So, therefore, this becomes an ideal type of generic manufacturing strategy, because to produce wide product lines we require low process structure complexity. So, that will make it economically feasible, and because you are offering wide variety of products, you should be able to distribute, you should go to different geographical markets. So, that is why it is an ideal type of generic manufacturing strategy. Then coming to the seventh type of generic manufacturing strategy, we have a low product line complexity, high process structure complexity and high organizational scope. So, that is again an ideal type of generic manufacturing strategy, because low product line complexity means you are offering the narrow product lines, some limited number of products you are offering in your product lines. Then the second is high process structure complexity. High process structure complexity means you are having the mature processes, and this is a continuous production kind of system, and high organizational scope, that means you should go to large geographical markets. So, if you take an example of a refinery, this type of example is suitable to this seventh GMS. So, if you are developing a refinery, you should sell your product, you should go to large number of geographical markets, therefore, it becomes a ideal kind of generic manufacturing strategy. And then the eighth generic manufacturing strategy, the last one in our discussion right now, that is the high product line complexity. So, you are offering wide variety of products, high process structure complexity. So, you have mature processes where you have lot of continuous production system and high organizational scope. So, high organizational scope means you are either going into large number of geographically distributed markets, or you are going for large amount of vertical integration. So, both these things are possible in high organizational scope. So, because all these three things are looking interconnected, therefore, we say that it is a reasonably attractive proposition. So, these are the 8 different types of generic manufacturing strategies. And now, if I see the comparison of these 8 different types of generic manufacturing strategy in a single glance. So, you have seen that these 8 different generic manufacturing strategy, and where we have the process structure complexity, the product line complexity and the organizational scope. So, these are the 3 dimensions on the basis of which we have these 8 different types of generic manufacturing strategy. Now, the second point which we are discussing in this particular slide is that whether these things are applicable for a segment of market or for the entire industry. So, here we see that some of these strategies like 1 to 4, these 4 strategies are applicable only for the segment, particular segment, while strategy number 5 to 8 are applicable for the entire strategy. So, now if you see that I have a diagram here again of our framework. So, these point number 5, 6, 7, 8 are on the higher organizational scope side. So, therefore, you have these industry wide application. You can combine this discussion like this, and point number 1, 2, 3, 4 are towards the low organizational scope side, and therefore, these are applicable to a particular segment of your industry. Then we have also tried to map the generic business strategies given by Michael Porter, because that is also a very popular kind of strategic framework given by Michael Porter. And whether you have the cost leadership or you have a differentiation kind of strategy, that is the 2 very important strategies proposed by Michael Porter. So, now if you see that strategy number 1 is not giving you any particular answer with respect to Michael Porter, but if you see the strategy number 2, which is one of the ideal kind of strategy which is coming here, this is like giving you the differentiation kind of generic business strategy proposed by Michael Porter. Similarly, if you see the strategy number 3, now that strategy number 3 is also an ideal choice, and this strategy number 3 is giving you the cost leadership type of business strategy proposed by Porter. Similarly, you can see that strategy number 4 and 5, which are infeasible, these are to be rejected, and therefore, we have not exactly any kind of clear cut cost or cost leadership or differentiation advantage coming from these 2 types of strategies. And then again, when you have a clear decision about the ideal condition is when we have differentiation for 6th, and for 7th we have the cost leadership advantage. So, the point is that when we are able to clearly identify that what type of business strategy is this particular manufacturing strategy is providing, those are the ideal combinations. When we have a kind of we are not able to clearly say that whether it is a cost or differentiation type of advantage, we say that it is not a good or it is a reasonably okay kind of strategy. So, you have 4 strategies, 2, 3, 6 and 7, which are our choice of the day, that these are the ideal conditions. So, out of 8 points, 4 points are giving us me generic manufacturing strategies which are suitable, which are ideal, and you can also see that what type of order winners and qualifiers, what are the capabilities these strategies are providing to me. Like in this case, second, you are getting the competitive priority of quality, delivery, flexibility and innovation. In case of generic strategy 3, you are getting the cost leadership advantage. Similarly, in 7 case you are getting the cost leadership advantage, and again in case of 6 you are getting the advantage of quality, delivery, flexibility and innovation. So, with this we can finally see that those generic manufacturing strategies which are coming ideal from this discussion are also giving some type of clear cut business strategy advantage, whether it is related to cost leadership or related to differentiation, and therefore, this whole discussion matches not only at the functional level, but at the business level also. So, with this we come to end of this session. Thank you very much.